It's time for Reason.
That's the priorities our government has set. We just talked about the state budget and where the money's going and how much taxes they want to increase on us. Now we're looking at the federal level and looking at a federal budget reform on what we can do to get our budget under control. And instead of worrying about where the money's going and what our tax rate's going to look like and what our spending's going to look like, we're too concerned with giving amnesty to illegal aliens. Notice the priority of the progressives.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, yeah, welcome into the Voice of Reason. A brand new day, a brand new week, and it's something that we should use as an opportunity to seize the day. Carpe diem, make it a good one, and start off a brand new week. It is a Monday. Let's go ahead and get it rolling. What do you say? Let's get pumped up. Let's get excited. Let's set the tone for not just the day, but for the entire week. It's a Monday morning right here on the Voice of Reason. Welcome into it.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
There it is, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, you are more than welcome to do so. What a great weekend it was. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you stayed warm. We saw snow here in the Wichita area over the weekend, which was foreign for us. What is this white stuff falling from the sky? I think the world's about to end. And I tell you what, I was glad that we got to actually just stay inside and not do a whole lot yesterday because the snow was coming down nicely for a while. And it reminded me of what we should have seen during Christmas time that we did not see really during Christmas time. Welcome into it. Happy Monday morning. Hope you had a great, wonderful weekend. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK if you want to join in. I don't know, how show of hands, how many individuals actually watched the Super Bowl yesterday? How many individuals wanted to actually watch it? How many ended up not watching it? I'd love to hear from you on that if you did. Now, I did not watch much of the game. I did not watch the game. I did not care to watch the game because of the protests that we were doing, just because I did not want to see it. However, being the individual that needs to stay up somewhat on current events in order to be able to talk about it and have a dialogue on the radio, we did flip over briefly as we were scanning through the TV stations. My wife is a huge football fan, and she wanted to watch a little bit of it. Now, this is very hard for me because I am a Patriots fan. I have always been a Patriots fan ever since I was a kid because I always thought that they were a very patriotic team. I did enjoy the Patriots, and I was a fan of Drew Bledsoe back in the day before Tom Brady actually came about. So I had a very tough time not watching because this is my team going to the Super Bowl, but I did not because of that fact. We did, however, flip over right before the halftime show because I wanted to see the halftime show and see if there was a message that was being spewed or if there was a message that they were going to try and promote as they have done in the past. If you remember the one with the Black Lives Matter movement where everybody was in the black and they were dancing around and with that big message, and especially with the time of the kneeling during the national anthem, so to speak, with their big activist movement, quote unquote, I wanted to see if they were going to try and bleed that over into the Super Bowl halftime show, and I wanted to see what it would look like. So we watched it with Justin Timberlake, which I have to admit, I do not care for his music. I do not care for Justin Timberlake's music at all in any way, shape, or form. That's just not my style of music. However, I do respect Justin Timberlake for, number one, the classiness. It was not where it was very risque in the type of dancing and the type of style that he does. That's just not what he does. He's a very classy kind of individual. And the commercials directly after the halftime Super Bowl, I believe it was Verizon, was, and I don't know if you saw this or if you caught it or not, was saying we thank all of our emergency responders and first responders every day for what they do and yada, 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 and they're showing that respect. And it was voiced by Justin Timberlake, and it was a thank you message from Verizon. And I have to congratulate him for that because that was something that I did not anticipate to see during the Super Bowl, especially with what happened with the Veterans Organization, with them not being allowed to advertise with their #PleaseStand message. So it was encouraging to see that. However, I did notice a theme last night because we watched the halftime show And then we watched maybe the first 5 minutes of the third quarter before we ended up flipping again because I didn't care. But I did, in between that, I don't know, half hour, 40-minute time, I was watching a lot of the commercials, and just about all of them had the same theme. And I found it a very ironic theme for the same discussion that we've been having about either we stand or we don't stand during the national anthem. We unite as one, we don't unite. The division between the racial tares in the country or the division between the elites in the country or whatever the division may be. The theme last night from just about all of the commercials was uniting as one. Uniting as one, which I found very fascinating. Uniting behind our first responders and our emergency responders, which is extremely ironic with the fact that we're hating cops during this entire message of the kneeling during the national anthem because cops are just abusing the minority populations, right? So why are we giving them credit and saying thank you for your service as being a first responder? Why are we doing that? Now, during the video, it was actually more of the firefighters that they showed video of, but you can call a police officer a first responder, right? So why are we giving them thanks and uniting as one when we're actually promoting the protest? When you saw the video of, or the commercial of Budweiser, which I did see that one, and that one wasn't bad. It wasn't of the actual beer, but it was actually the water that they provide during the flooding and during natural disasters and during all that, which I thought was really cool. I actually have one of those cans, and it's the Budweiser water, just drinking water that they give during times of need. And it was the We Unite as One. I did see the commercial that was very interesting of all the different religious leaders going to a football game. It was the rabbi that was driving the vehicle, and then they picked up the priest, and then they picked up the Haman, and then they picked up the Buddhist, and they all got together, and or the monk, and they all got together, and then they put on their football jerseys, and they went to the football game together, and they were sitting there next to nuns. And then it was saying that we can unite all as one under the same team, and it was a very interesting message that I saw last night from all the commercials of uniting as one. And at the same time, the message seems to be apparently is that we can all unite under one as one under something like football as opposed to the American flag that allows football to actually happen. So we're not allowed to have a commercial that actually says #please stand because we're going to respect the veterans and we're going to respect the nation that actually allows this type of thing to happen. No, we can't do that. Instead, we need to unite as one under a football team. That was the message that we got last night. And again, I didn't watch a whole lot of it after that because I realized what the theme was and I found it extremely hypocritical and I ended up turning it off again. But I wanted to see the message of what was trying to be portrayed last night. Did you watch it and did you get the same feel as I did? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. It was, again, hard not to really watch it, which I don't really care. I didn't watch anything during this season, so I guess I didn't follow the records or follow how good or bad anybody was. I know that apparently the Eagles, this is the first time they made it to the Super Bowl, and this is the first time they won the Super Bowl, and everybody's talking about it as the falling dynasty of the New England Patriots and whatever. At the end of the day, you still got to go to work. At the end of the day, it didn't really affect your income. At the end of the day, unless you actually see it for morale reasons, it didn't really help you in any way, shape, or form other than the entertainment value. And the entertainment of the masses is one of the most important things in society, apparently, because don't worry about what the politicians are doing. Worry about what's happening in the Grand Coliseum, right? And that's the hard time that I have with sports. I get it. It's entertaining. I get it. The kids look up to them. I get it. But at the same time, at the end of the day, does it really help you in the way you need to? But the message that's being spread, message is important. And all of them had some type of uniting theme to it. All the commercials, all the messages. I don't know if they knelt during the national anthem during the Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't care. Because I know that there are a lot of activists of that type of message on the Philadelphia Eagles team. I know that the Patriots have been a little bit more shy on trying to actually express their opinions and views on that, and I give them credit for that. But to try and promote a message and a theme of uniting as one, of rallying together, of stopping the partisanship, stopping the bickering, stopping the division, trying to work together and just enjoy the sport, enjoy the game, which is what they were trying to do. It seemed almost a bit of desperation on the side of the NFL. Oh, look, we have ratings down 16% this year. Oh, look, for the first time, our very first Sunday night football game of 2018, we had to cancel, whether it was because of a scheduling conflict or it was because the ratings weren't there. Regardless of, for the first time ever, we had to cancel a Sunday night football game. For the first time ever, our ratings are down the way they are. For the first time ever, people are more excited almost to look towards the XFL, which may be starting up next year or the year after, as opposed to watching football in the NFL. For the first time ever, we're a little concerned because we've had nothing but politics and partisanship and division within the NFL this year, and we want to change that. So what do? Yeah, come up with your creative, fun little commercials and make them uniting. Make them harmonious. Make them all come together as one. And look at this. We can all come together as one to watch a football game. Regardless of our political affiliation, regardless of our division, regardless of our thoughts on the country, we can come together and watch a happy little football game. That would have been nice if they allowed everybody to have done it. It would have been nice if when someone came to you and said, you know what, hashtag please stand because we like the American flag and that's what we support and we can all unite under the message of America. Under the message of the United States, under the idea that the reason we're allowed to enjoy entertainment and sports like this is because we live under a nation that allows us to do that, that allows anybody of any creed or color or nationality or any background to be able to work hard and to be able to get recognized and to make millions of dollars playing a child's game. Under that American flag. But no, you're not allowed to do that. Let's unite under the game itself, not under the flag that allows that game to actually be played. Very ironic and very hypocritical, in my opinion. This is The Voice of Reason. Happy Monday morning. Lots to get to today.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason on the Mid-American Network.
Into the Voice of Reason, hailing from Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker KQAM and KGPT TV, broadcasting all across the Mid-American Network. Happy Monday morning. Great to have you along today. I want to hear from you. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. You can always shoot me a message all over social media. Andy on Facebook, at Hoosier Reason on Twitter. We got the Facebook Live feed rolling today as well. You can always leave a comment there. Your thoughts on the Super Bowl, on the message last night, among whatever else may be on your mind. At the bottom of the hour, in just a few minutes here, we're going to play our interview we had on Friday with a GOP candidate for the governor's race, Mr. Jim Barnett, former state legislator. He's going to join us, and we'll talk about his platform and get your thoughts and what he's going to be doing. Now, there is a Republican convention coming up in 2 weeks. Week and a half already, really, and we will be covering on many of these stations, and along with the KGPT TV, we'll be covering the first Republican gubernatorial debate on that Saturday night, the 17th. So more information to come there. Stay tuned in. I'm really excited and really happy to be hosting the pre- and post-game debate coverage on all these stations along with KGPT TV. So really excited for that. We got a lot coming up as we start getting deeper into the legislative session and into the gubernatorial race 2018. So Jim Barnett will air his interview coming up in just a few minutes. A lot of things happening in the legislative session already. Finally, things are starting to pick up as, number one, you want to talk about hypocrisy? You want to talk about irony? We talked about the Super Bowl and the message of uniting as one and how we should be all hunky-dory and nice little happy together, right? All holding hands, singing Kumbaya, and watching the football game. And it's quite ironic just with the message that they've been spreading throughout the entire season. So I guess we can have the same kind of hypocritical message from the state level, right? From the legislative session. We've had massive tax increases. We've had massive spending increases. We have politicians that don't even want to look at spending cuts or even tax cuts. But then I think they're starting to remember that this is a midterm election coming up at the end of this year, and people are not forgetting about the tax increases. So what are they doing? Oh, yeah, they're talking about now cutting your food sales tax, which is a good thing. But how, first off, are we going to support ourselves with First off, cutting sales tax and not cutting our spending. What are we going to do? How are we going to afford it? How are we going to pay for all the goodies that they want to put onto us with education, with Medicaid, with all the different other little programs? But they want to cut it down to 4% by next year, 2.5% down. And I would say that's great, but it's coming from the Democrats. The progressive Democrats that just raised your taxes twice, retroactively back in last July, and then just again last January, last month. And when you file your taxes and you go and you actually file your taxes this year, between now and April, you will probably more than likely owe the state of Kansas, unless you changed it on your own and you actually put the rate higher than what it needed to, you will be owing the state of Kansas money this year. Hopefully, you'll get a tax return from the federal level and you can pay that off, and then you'll be fine and hunky-dory. But you will be owing the state of Kansas money. And the politicians think that you have forgotten about this. And the reason I bring it up over and over and over again is because if we're going to make the right decisions in our state, we need to remember exactly what they've done to us. And not only that, now they're going to try and change the tone. They want more money at the statewide level. What are we going to do to afford it? If we don't touch a single tax rate and we don't touch a single cent in additional spending right now, we will still owe close to $500 million next session after our 2-year budget cycle. We will still owe money. We are in the red. We are negative as a state. And now they're starting to realize, oh, wait a second, people are still really upset. Usually we can get away with it. Usually we can do something 2 years out. The next year we kind of go back on that. We go the other direction. We make everybody all happy, hunky-dory. And then we go to them and say, look, we're trying to fight it. Can you elect me again to get it back into office? And it's not working. I don't think people are actually forgetting this time. Why? Because we won't let them. You and I, the activists, the constituents, we're not going to allow them to try and pull the wool over our eyes. It's not going to happen. Why are the Democrats who advocated for the largest tax increase in state history are now turning their back on it again and saying, oh, look, now we're going to try and lower your sales tax? If you pay attention to the tax revenue coming into the state, 60 to 65% of all revenue going into the Kansas state government is from sales tax. It's not income. It's not property. It's not anything else. It is sales tax. Right now, we are on the road. The way that Governor Brownback had set us into that motion is that we are on the road to a sales tax, fair tax mentality. He wanted to go to the path towards zero. If you remember that, the message that he always gave was the path to zero on personal income tax. We wanted really a fair tax system in the state. No income tax, all sales tax. And because of that movement, because of the massive income tax deductions that Governor Brownback put in motion with the Republicans, mind you, with that message, 60 to 65% of all of our revenue now from going into the state is now sales tax. Which means if you want more revenue from the people as a elected official, then you would want to keep the sales tax and lower the income tax, so that way it was actually beneficial to us. And we could afford the sales tax if we didn't have any income tax coming out. Then we could actually afford what you were trying to hash out and what you were trying to spend. And when you want more, you just raise the sales tax instead of the income tax and take us on both ends of the deal. But now you want to mess up the entire system by wanting to lower the sales tax and then raise our income tax again. Doesn't make any sense. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Lots more. This is The Voice of Reason.
Patriotism is alive and well.
We were so excited when Donald Trump got elected that we weren't going to be bullied any longer. We weren't going to have people push us around. We're not going to apologize for who we are. And we're not going to let people walk all over us. We're not going to tolerate it because we're not the weak, spineless country that we used to be.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Oh, yeah. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today. It's a Monday. Let's make it happen, baby. Setting the tone, setting the stage. Carpe diem all over this place. We're going to be feeling like we're scoring our own touchdowns after today. Right. 316-721-8255, 36 minutes past the hour. David on Facebook Live. Nope, I stood fast, didn't watch a single bit of the Super Bowl, didn't miss it a bit. Good for you. Good for you. I would have loved to have done the same. Like I said, and I didn't even watch the game. I just watched the halftime show, and that was enough. That was enough. How many people did stay steadfast and did not watch any of the Super Bowl in any way, shape, or form? I'd love to hear from you today. And did you miss it? Is that something that you miss? Are you looking forward to maybe a new XFL game, an XFL franchise? Do you want to change and reform the NFL? Is it something that you stood fast for 1 year that you want to go back to next year? I don't know. I'd love to hear from you on that. I want to play the interview that we had on Friday. He is the Republican gubernatorial candidate, one of the Republican gubernatorial candidates for 2018, Mr. Jim Barnett, former state legislator, and he joined us on the show on Friday to talk about his race, the upcoming convention, and the platform of what he wants to see out of this legislative session this year. This is what Jim Barnett had to say on the show as of Friday. Talk about, for some that may not be familiar with you, talk a little bit about your background. You've been involved with the state government for a while, as I mentioned, being a former state senator, but talk about what you've been doing and what led you to this point to say, you know what, this is the year and I'm going to make this happen.
Yeah, Andy, if you want to know me best, I'm a Kansas farm kid. I grew up on a farm south of Redding, Kansas by Emporia. Absolutely loved farming, but had asthma and decided maybe I shouldn't be a farmer. So, the next best thing I could think of was practicing medicine. So I've been practicing, and I still practice now for 35 years. I started in Emporia, practiced for 28 years, and was asked to work on a school bond issue. So got involved with that, and then was asked to run for the school board. And I jokingly say it's been downhill ever since, because I got bitten by that public service bug way back then, and I haven't been able to shake it. Small business owner, successful small business owner, so have signed both sides of the checks. I've served in the Senate, have a lot of background in healthcare as well. And I have a great passion for this state and see great challenges for the next governor. And
that's the question I wanted to ask you. Coming out of the Brownback era, some people liked him. A lot of people did not like him. Now that he's out of office and he's moved on to the ambassadorship, the Republican Party, even within the GOP, it's torn right now on the next direction to go. And the next governor, regardless of who it is going to have a very challenging time working to unite the state and be able to move forward in one direction or another. How much of a obstacle do you see that moving forward with this race?
Very challenging, Andy, but we traveled the state for a year, just meeting with people and listening, asking the question, what do Kansans want? What do they want of the next governor? Just to segue on your words there, we heard certain comments from people over and over again. We heard the word one, we heard the word unite, we heard the words work together. And so I said to Rosie, my wife, the theme of our campaign will be One Kansas. Hashtag One Kansas, because only when we unite as one Kansas can we solve our problems and bridge that partisan divide that keeps us dysfunctional so often, and bridge that rural-urban divide that is a challenge for the state as well. Mm-hmm. So I see the next governor having an opportunity to do many great things in the state. Our potential is much greater than where we are, and the number one job of the next governor is to help get this state's economy growing, create more jobs, and actually fill the over 48,000 jobs we have open in this state right now.
Jim, let's talk about some of the issues that are major in the state right now. One of them, of course, being education. We have a cry from some saying that we're not funding education enough. We have the other side saying that the Supreme Court is trying to bully us into making decisions and trying to make financial decisions for us, and we need a constitutional amendment. From your perspective, where do we go on this whole education debacle? Because that's tying up a lot of our, not only finances, but also a lot of the time and discussion that the state legislatures have.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andy, for the opportunity to talk about that. I'm going to give you my ABCs of what we need to do in the state regarding education. First of all, we could spend $1 billion more today in education, and we wouldn't solve the problems we have. But we do need to figure out how we go about solving them. My A stands for advancing early childhood learning. As we travel the state, there are obviously examples of generational failure of the family. Poverty, substance abuse, behavioral health issues, dependency on state and federal resources. So how do we break that cycle? And I've studied and I've thought and I've learned and I've talked to a lot of people about this, and it's my belief that unless we drill down to very early childhood intervention in those families where kids grow up with abuse, molestation, neglect, unless we drill down and help those kids, they're marked for life. And I would never give up on a child, but that's the case. This actually this comes from a project that was done in Wichita by Barry Downing, a philanthropist, where he took, with his vision, took his resources and showed that if those kids are helped, they get out of high school, they have a job, they earn $2,000 more a month, they get married, they own a home. So as a state, we're going to have to grapple with that. My B is to be out of court. We've got to get out of court. There's just such a wasteful way to spend money, say to infuse $600 million all at once when it should be slow and steady. So as governor, I will do what has to be done, bringing the people together so we can get out of court and stay out of court. Mm-hmm. The C changes our focus from credits to careers. As we talked about earlier, we're 6, 8, 10 years behind training the workforce that we need. And part of that's because we spend all our time fighting in court. And here, Andy, one of the really bad things about that is that we're sending a message to young people across the state that we do not value teachers and we do not value education. And I know Kansans do value education, but we've got some major changes to make.
Well, it's going to be a hard-fought road, and as you mentioned, I mean, especially with the Supreme Court, it is out of control when it comes to litigation for, 10, 12 years that we've seen now, and it seems like there's no end to it, and it's kind of a scary thought.
Yes, so Andy, it has been too long, way too long. So how do we break that cycle? The court case that was recently lost with Gannon, and I've read the 88 pages, relies very heavy on what are called Rose standards. Now, these are actually not standards at all. They're capacities taken from Kentucky in the 1980s, so it's the last century. They're good things. They say you should be aware of your emotional well-being, your physical health. You should be able to compete with bordering states. But, Andy, we live in a global economy, and these are not measurable standards. In 2014, the legislature said we're going to codify or call those standards and put it into law. The governor signed it. And then they tasked the State Board of Education with developing a plan to achieve those now so-called standards. They did that. It was $893 million. It's no surprise the court ruled the way they did. They interpreted the law that was passed by our legislature and signed by Governor Brown back in 2014. So the state gave away the case in 2014. Now, we need standards that are pertinent to this century, pertinent to the education our kids need today, and are measurable, like on the front end, are kids ready for kindergarten? On the back end, can they get a job?
Sure. It's a great point. We got just about a minute and a half left here. I don't want to cut you short, but I do want to ask you about the other major issue that a lot of individuals in the legislature have been advocating for this year, which is that massive expansion of Medicaid. What's your take on this, and where do we go with health care in the state of Kansas?
Yeah, thank you so much. I have a really great passion for healthcare and a huge interest in innovation in our state for healthcare. I support Medicaid expansion, and I do it for two reasons. One is humanitarian. When people don't have access to healthcare, they wait until it's too late. And a lot of these individuals are working 2 or 3 jobs now, and they can't afford health care because it's out of their control that the cost went up so much. The second is for economic reasons. We started our healthcare access tour in Independence, Kansas. That's a community of over 9,000 in southeast Kansas. They lost their hospital. Hospitals have become the bank for the uninsured, and no bank can stay open without adequate resources. So losing your hospital is like losing your school, and a community dries up. So if we want our state to do well across the state, not just one area or not just 2 areas, we have to have access to health care.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Jim Barnett, candidate for the Republican side for the governor's race. How can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out and help you out?
Yes, the best way, thank you, is going to barnettforkansas.com. It's BARNETTFOR Kansas.com.
There we are. That was the interview we had with Jim Barnett, Republican candidate for the gubernatorial race 2018. We appreciate him coming on the show. We'll get him back on as the primaries continue on. We have just a few candidates that we have not talked to yet, just a couple left. One of them being Chris Kobach, which we will, I believe, we'll talk to on Friday this week. So you're not going to want to miss that, along with Derek Schmidt and a couple others. So we're getting close. I think we've talked to just about all of the Republican candidates that are running for the governor's race right now. And as just a reminder, we'll have the Republican convention coming up in 2 weeks from now, week and a half, 2 weeks. Here in Wichita, actually. If you want to partake in that, it's the 2-day event, Friday and Saturday. You can get your tickets. You can go and see all the different seminars, all the different speeches, and, of course, the very first Republican debate. They're beginning to drop out little by little. As you know, Ed O'Malley made his announcement on, Thursday last week, that he will no longer be part of the race, that he has dropped out, was not able to get the finances in order to make it happen, along with one of the high school students, Ethan Randalis, who we did talk to on the show, and he has now switched officially from the Republican Party to the Libertarian Party. So whether you think the high school students have a chance or not, one of them is dropping out, one of them's done, and the other two are hanging in. I did see some legislation that they're trying to talk about at the statewide level about how they want to set age requirements for the governor's race, and I don't see the need for it. We have three, right now we have 4 total high school students that are running. 3 of them in the 2 in the Republican side, 1 now Libertarian, and then 1 Democrat are running. If you don't think they have the chance, then why even implement it? Let them run. Let them try. Let them get the experience. They have to do the fundraising. They have to do the campaigning, the door-to-door knocking on the doors, asking people for it, talking about their issues. Let them do it. Let them do it. I say good for them. I hope that they continue to be involved in politics even if they don't get the nomination, which 99% chance are not going to. But at the same time, let them try it. I got no problem with that. I don't know why all of a sudden, look at all the high school kids. I guess we better start passing a law saying that they can't actually do that. Let them try. Doesn't mean that they have a chance, but let them try. Let them get their feet wet in politics a little bit and see where it leads them. You never know. Lots more coming up. Also, a big vote that happened on Friday, on Saturday, a little concerning. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
Hey, good morning, too. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here. Hailing on the Wichita's Big Talker KQAM along with KGPT TV channel 2610. Welcome aboard. By the way, if you watch the TV show, which you probably should because it's just that awesome, you can also watch the refeed of it tonight, 6 to 9 o'clock at night. Wake up with the show, go to bed with the show. What more could you possibly ask for? And, of course, broadcasting on the entire Mid-America Network here for the first hour, which is already wrapping up very, very quickly. I cannot believe it. So much to get to. Appreciate, again, Jim Barnett, Republican gubernatorial candidate, for joining us on Friday. We just aired that interview again. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, State Representative, also candidate for the Secretary of State position, Keith Esau, is going to be joining us. Looking forward to chatting with him. We'll get a quick recap on what's happening at the legislative session, along with his run for the Secretary of State position. 316-721-8255. Let's go right to the phone, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, this is Blake.
Hey, good morning, Blake. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well.
Blake
I was just listening. Blake Carpenter.
Yes, sir.
Hey, so I was just listening to your program here on my way back to Topeka, and you actually mentioned my bill in the last segment, which is the requirements for governor and other heads of state. And so I just wanted to call in real quick and say
I'm so glad you did. Yeah. So give us a recap. From what I saw is that this came up after the fact that we've had numerous different high school students running for the governor's race, correct?
Well, that was one of the things that came up this last year, but another thing that was brought to our attention is that it's not only just high school students or anybody who's younger who can run for governor. It's anybody who's also lives out of state. They don't have to be a Kansas resident. Mm-hmm. And also, because we have no standards or anything for running for governor, you could be incarcerated or a felon and run for governor. And so it's, okay, well, you wouldn't be able to campaign. You could sit there in your jail cell, but I mean, the thing is that that's not how this works. And so we need some sort of at least minimum standards. And so the way I drafted the bill, I actually reached out to Ethan, the guy that just switched from Republican to Libertarian recently. But I reached out to him. I was communicating with him, and he actually helped me draft the bill because I wanted to get him involved in the legislative process. Who knows? Maybe someday he'll run for the legislature. But the language, though, currently is just a qualified elector, which means 18 years old. Now, with some of the conversations I've had there in the legislature, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point here down the road, if that language gets amended to where we have a governor has to be at least 25, 30, because some of those people are wanting those kinds of age requirements in there, because what they point to is, well, we have those types of standards in the U.S. Constitution, so why wouldn't we have them for our state as well?
It's a great point.
Position.
It's a great point. I mean, how many other states do you know of that don't have any type of minimum requirements, whether to even just live in the state to be able to run for governor? I don't know any other states that actually have that. So you're right. I mean, especially with basic qualifications of that, at least live in the state that you want to try and represent as governor. I mean, that would be a sure sign that, hey, you know what, I actually want to do something good for my state.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't recall right now off the top of my head, but I think it was like 20-some states or 30 states, somewhere around there, have a minimum age requirement, at least for their top office in that state.
Sure.
And so to ask for one for ourselves, even if it's just starting out in the bill, its base bill is 18, I mean, that's at least a minimum standard. And you're at least a qualified elector, so you have the ability to at least vote for yourself.
That would help. That would help at least to be able to vote for yourself in that sense. Very good. At least there's a little bit more to it than just, well, you know, there's high school kids. Now, what the response that you got from Ethan when you did reach out to him, is he pretty happy with the draft that you proposed that the legislature is discussing right now?
Yeah. I once the bill was drafted and submitted, I sent a copy of the version of the bill to him, and he expressed that he was content with it. Well, really, I mean, everything that was in the bill is everything that he suggested that should go into the bill. Because when I reached out to him, I said, hey, what do you think this bill should look like? And he said, well, 18, so qualified elector, and a 4-year residency requirement if you're going to run for the office of governor or lieutenant governor. So you have to live in the state of Kansas for 4 consecutive years before running for those two offices. And those two ideas, which are the main portions of the bill, all came from him. And so I just wanted to help out, and so then we kicked off the legislative process. We'll have to just wait and see if the bill ends up getting amended.
Well done. State Representative Blake Carpenter right there. I appreciate the update and the information on that. We got about 20 seconds before we got to go to break, but last week for the legislative session, some interesting things happened. I'm going to talk about when we come back in hour number 2, this gun bill that was voted on Saturday, but what do you think's happening so far? How's it going up there?
Well, we got a lot of work to do. We got an amendment to take out because of the Arndt amendment that got attached on at the very end, which is taking away your Second Amendment rights. So what we're hoping, I'm working with senators, we're trying to get that amendment off. And if we can get that amendment off, it's a very strong pro-Second Amendment piece of legislation.
There it is, Blake Carpenter.
Paul Hughes with Get a Move On of Wichita.
It's time for Reason.
That's the priorities our government has set. We just talked about the state budget and where the money's going and how much taxes they want to increase on us. Now we're looking at the federal level and looking at a federal budget reform on what we can do to get our budget under control. And instead of worrying about where the money's going and what our tax rate's going to look like and what our spending's going to look like, we're too concerned with giving amnesty to illegal aliens. Notice the priority of the progressives.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, yeah, welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2. The Voice of Reason, right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, along with KGPT TV, channel 2610. Both for the live feed now and for the replay from 6 to 9 at night tonight. Can you believe it? All over social media, radio, TV. We are by far the fastest growing program in the entire state of Kansas. Welcome aboard. And don't you love the fact, too, not only the fact that we're actually growing by media platform, but the fact that our state legislators, as they're driving to Topeka, they're listening to the program on what information's happening and making sure that we get the right information out to the individuals. I love it. I love it. And I love it some more. It is a Monday. Oh, that's right. That's what we do, setting the tone, setting the stage, getting ready for the week. I know you got to feel good about it as we start off a whole new day. Carpe diem all over this place. It's a Monday morning.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Here it is, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, you are more than welcome to do so. You can shoot me a message all over, however you may like to. My email, andy@kqamradio.com. You can shoot me a message all over social media. I did reset the Facebook Live feed for those of you that were concerned that maybe in viewing it before. If you want to watch it again, all you got to do is refresh the KQAM page, and it's there. I'll reshare it on all the other pages. Had a few messages of an internet lag. It's a Monday morning, and it's cold, and our internet seemed to like to, just drag a little bit. So I got that all reset. Hopefully that's working a little bit better for you, and wherever you may be listening, however you may be listening, then we do appreciate that very much. Did you watch the Super Bowl last night? We talked about this briefly in the first hour, but the message that they were sending. Now, I did not watch the game itself, really. I watched the halftime show because I wanted to get the theme or the time. They always have a theme every year, kind of a ongoing general theme of what the commercials look like and what they're doing. And after numerous different protests this year, after people wanting to shy away from the NFL, after people wanting to actually boycott the NFL, I was curious to see what the message was going to be. And the halftime show, first off, with Justin Timberlake, I'm not a fan. I don't care for the music. That's not my style, not my thing. But at the same time, I do have a lot of respect for Justin Timberlake. He's a very down-to-earth individual. I love the fact that he went into the crowd and tried to get along with the crowd and do his thing up there. It wasn't a raunchy kind of show that many of them have been. It is a very professional and very clean and a very nice show. Now, it was voice-tracked, which I'm not a fan of, because if you're not able to perform live singing and dancing at the same time, then you're just not where you think that you should be. And that's my issue, is that why did you voice track it? But at the same time, it was very nicely done. But then I saw the commercial directly after the performance, and it was a Verizon commercial voiced by Justin Timberlake, and it was, we want to thank all of our first responders and our emergency responders, which I found very, very ironic. And then I saw a lot of the other commercials of uniting as one to watch football. Uniting is one, the big let's get together and sing Kumbaya and hold hands and be in the big harmonious circle and talk about uniting as one and how we're all one, regardless of religious affiliation or skin color or anything of that sort. And they tried to make this big uniting movement, which I found quite ironic, because we can unite under football. We just can't unite under the American flag, which is absolutely pathetic. So if you watch it, if you noticed that, I'd love to hear from you. Or if you just didn't want anything to do with it, you already knew that was coming and you just didn't want to be part of that, I totally understand. 721-8255-721-TALK. Coming up in hour number 3, Keith Esau. He is state representative, also candidate for the Secretary of State position here in the state of Kansas. We're looking forward to chatting with him. I do have some tickets to give away today, so you're going to want to listen up for that. And we may even do that come up after the end of this segment to give something really, really exciting away. I'm pumped up. I'm excited. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. It's the event's tomorrow evening if you want to go to it. Yes, it is during the week, which is hard, but at the same time, totally worth it. We'll touch on that in just a little bit. I do want to cover real quick, though, a vote that happened on Saturday from our state legislators, and it's very concerning. Now, we talked about this. There were 2 bills that were floating around last week, as far as I'm aware, and I had talked to a couple different legislators on the different bills. One of them giving state reciprocity, which was good to a degree, but then it had, from my understanding from who I had talked to, a few potential loopholes that were very dangerous within the bill. And those dangerous parts were repealing some of our constitutional carry in the state of Kansas and beginning to repeal carry on campus. And that was the concerning part of the reciprocity bill. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is the separate bill from that. Might be the same, but it was a separate bill, and this was posted, hat tip to one of our state legislators on the social media site, on the actual vote of the House bill. And this House bill was straight up to end campus carry. Now, from my understanding, I had gone into this legislative session assuming that they were not going to try and go as forceful against the gun rights bills and the Second Amendment in the state during a midterm election year, because Republicans voting against the Second Amendment would get a bad rating against the NRA, and being a very pro-gun type of state like we are in the state of Kansas, we like our guns, then that would actually harm them in order to get reelected. And they would want to try and play nice this year. Remember the whole 2-year cycle, do something 2 years from now. That way we forget about it. And then by the time we go into this session, then we play nice and we can get reelected. But they feel a little more bold this year. They feel a little more on edge this year. They feel like they had the momentum. They were able to repeal many of Brownback's policies last year. They were able to kind of get whatever the heck they wanted to last year. So this year, they feel a little emboldened. They feel a little powerful. They feel a little, you've had a few of those adult beverages and now you feel kind of invincible. That's kind of how the legislators are feeling this year. And this is no different here. Here's what the state representative had to say on his social media. Vote today. This was Saturday, by the way. Vote today on the floor of the House to end campus carry and interfere with our constitutional Second Amendment rights. A yes vote is to place limitations on our Second Amendment right, while a no vote seeks to protect our Second Amendment rights. I participated in the vote today. Guess which side I'm under? Better yet, see which ones I voted and which ones who voted. These kind of votes bring out your true colors. Now, I read through the list here, and I'm going to read off the names, but 17, the vote went down, luckily. It did go down 69 to 53, but a lot closer vote than what we should have had. 69 to 53 on repealing campus carry. Now, you have to have a reason to repeal campus carry, or you have to have a reason to repeal any kind of bill, right? You have to have a motive. You have to have an excuse. You have to have an understanding. You have to have some type of research or some type of study or some type of example or some type of incident that happened that said this was a really bad idea and we shouldn't have done it in the first place and now we need to repeal it. Usually, when things like this are repealed, then there's some type of big disaster that happened, a big shooting that happened, or a big massacre, or something terrible that said, you know what, this was a really bad idea. We got to get rid of this. We got to repeal it, and we need to do this right now. As far as I'm aware, that has not happened. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe you could enlighten me on that, but I have not heard of any example of how there's been a shooting on campus for the first 6 months, 8 months of carry on campus. Constitutional carry. The way that it got implemented in July. I know that you've been able to do so to some degree beforehand, but starting July 1 of 2017, you are allowed to actually carry on campus the way that you're really allowed to anywhere else. So what's changed? What happened? What was the bad, disastrous thing that happened? Nothing. But it was a political motive to say, hey, you know what? Let's go ahead and try and repeal. During an election year, during a midterm election year for the House of Representatives, and out of the 53 that voted yes to repeal campus carry, 17 of them were Republicans. A 32% ratio, 32% Republican support in repealing campus carry. So when you go to the voting booth this year, and you hear a Republican say, I'm pro-Second Amendment, but I don't want them to carry on campus, how are you going to vote? Who are you going to support? And is it time that we start to move them out of office? And it's time for us to actually understand exactly who that was, because it is important for us to understand and for us to know. So, ladies and gentlemen, the 17 Republicans that voted to repeal your right to carry, moving our way away from the Second Amendment and to repeal carry on campus. All you students that are actually on a campus, on a university, trying to defend yourself because you have the right to do so. Maybe you're gun aficionado. Maybe you just want to carry because you have the right to do so. Maybe you're actually a woman who wants to protect herself from, I don't know, the rape culture that's quote-unquote on campus as well. They voted to take away that right for you. And that would be, by the way, Stephen Becker. Sheely Brim, state representative. We've had her on the show. We'll get her back on the show and ask about that vote. Stephanie Clayton, Tom Cox, Diana Dirks, Roger Elliott, Linda Gallagher, Mary Martha Good, Jan Kessinger, Joy Costin, I'm assuming, Patty Markley, Tom Phillips, Abraham Raffi, Melissa Rooker, Mark Schreiber, Tom Sloan, and Susie Swanson. The 17 Republicans in the House that voted to repeal your right to carry on campus. Kind of interesting, isn't it? Now, we do have to give credit to all the Republicans and conservatives that actually voted against it with the 69 yeas and actually being able to repeal this and shut this bill down. Will they try it again? Who knows? It depends on high up of the majority or high up of the opportunity that they have to do so, and if they feel that they have enough votes to do so. The good news is, because I'm always kind of the, look towards the silver lining, look towards the optimist, the glass is always half full kind of guy. That's me. Even if it's a quarter full, there's always still something in there, which means we have an opportunity. The good news of this bill is that it put on record Republicans' names that wanted to repeal your right to carry, that wanted to actually downgrade themselves with an NRA rating, that actually wanted to repeal the Second Amendment for the most part in the state of Kansas. We have their names on record, and we will for sure remember that come just a few months away when we actually try to vote some of these individuals out during the primaries and the general elections. But 17 out of the 53 Republicans, 32% support of Republicans to repeal carry on campus after no disastrous thing has happened, after nothing bad's happened. I don't remember any kind of shootings. I don't remember any suicides. I don't remember any shootings at high noon. I don't remember any massacres. I don't remember any dialogue actually being silenced during a class. I don't remember anybody being threatened in a classroom because of a dialogue. I don't remember any of this actually happening. But yet they still wanted to repeal. Very interesting, isn't it? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a big event happening tomorrow night that I am personally very excited about. I know that it's not the cup of tea for some individuals, but we have a unique listenership on this show, which is I'm very proud of. Probably because I'm a younger millennial individual. We have a lot of younger millennial generational individuals on this show listening all the time, and I do appreciate that very much. And I'm excited the fact that tomorrow, now this is not one of my most favorite bands in the entire world because they are a little more mainstream. As you know, I go a little bit more on the fringe, but this is kind of a big deal for our community and for our area. And tomorrow night at Intrust Bank Arena, Avenged Sevenfold, along with the opening of Breaking Benjamin, two mainstream, grungier, nice rock bands coming to town. I got some tickets for you. Yeah. Now, the average ticket price for this is like $80, $90. So they're kind of a big deal. And I have 4 pair of tickets. We're going to give 2 of them away today, 2 of them away tomorrow. But right now, I have a pair of tickets for you for Avenged Sevenfold, Breaking Benjamin. It's going to be a heck of a show, and you're going to enjoy this. This is the Voice of Reason. Let's do caller number 2 right now. 721-8255, 721-TALK. We'll get you a pair of tickets to Avenged Sevenfold, Breaking Benjamin at Intrust Bank Arena tomorrow night. I'm going to be there. Yeah, it's going to be a late night. It's going to be fun on Wednesday, but I will be there, and we'll have a little fun with it. Let's do caller number 2 right now. This is the Voice of Reason.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker KQAM.
Welcome back into the Voice of Reason. Congratulations to Mark for winning those tickets to Avenged Sevenfold. We have more, don't worry. I have to admit, this is probably the one and only conservative talk radio and TV show in the country that would have the listeners get that excited to want to give away metal tickets. I'm just saying. I mean, usually the conservatives are a little bit more of the angry music that can't be listened to. And I personally, that's what I do. Now, again, this is a little more mainstream. More so than my fringe crazy death metal that I like to listen to. But at the same time, it's for mainstream metal. It is a little bit on the edgier side. And the fact that we do this, the phone's lit up, blew up. Don't worry, I got a lot more tickets to give away. We'll do another one probably before the end of this hour. And then we will also give some away tomorrow or maybe in the third hour as well. I got a few more tickets for you. But I love it. I love it The one and only conservative talk show in the country that can give away metal tickets and have people get that excited for them. 316-721-8255. I did get a request, by the way, as well, by not only a couple individuals on the phone, but also by social media, posting the list of individuals, the Republicans that voted for this gun bill to repeal carry on campus. Yes, I will post it. We'll post it all over social media. I will share the original link. Or maybe I'll scan it on here because I have highlighted the Republicans versus the Democrats. Out of the 53 that voted to repeal carry on campus, I do have 17 of them being Republicans, and it's time for us to understand exactly who they are. So, yes, I will post the list on social media after the show today, or maybe even if I get a chance during one of the commercial breaks, I'll try and scan it and be able to put it on my social media so that way you can see, spread it around, let everybody know. Because if these Republicans come back to you and say, hey, please vote for me again, I've been a staunch supporter of your Second Amendment rights, I've been a staunch supporter of this, then please vote for me, then that's what we need to be aware of. So I will post that all around, and that way you can have it, you can share it to your friends, you can post it on your refrigerator, whatever you want to do with it, and know exactly which ones are Republicans and what they've done to try and repeal your Second Amendment. 721-8255, 721-TALK. When we come back after the bottom of the hour, there is another issue that I want to shift gears on just a little bit in the state legislature, one of them being a tobacco tax. Now, this has been an ongoing debate for a while now in the state of Kansas with the tobacco sales tax and what we should do with that, but they are wanting to increase the price of cigarettes in order to pay for lung cancer treatments in the state, which is, in my opinion, a really, really dumb thing to do. And we'll talk about that when we come back a little bit later as well. I do want to tell you, though, that although we're giving away the tickets for the concert today, tomorrow is the kickoff of our Ultimate Valentine's Day giveaway for KQAM. Brought to you by Autotech. Starting tomorrow, we're going to go Tuesday to Tuesday for a full 7 days. We'll get 7 different entries, which means you have a 1 in 7 chance of winning, a really, really good chance. But tune in each morning starting tomorrow, and we'll get you registered. For all you got to do is listen for your cue to call. We'll play the sounder. We'll get you registered, and then we're going to give away a value from Autotech at over $75 package, which includes a free oil change, windshield wiper blade replacement, because, you know, it is wintertime. You get a little ice, and it kind of tears it up. A wash and a vacuum of the vehicle, along with a box of chocolates and a rose to give to that special someone. So it's the ultimate Valentine's Day gift with KQAM Radio and Autotech starting tomorrow. Listen for that one. Starting tomorrow, we'll get you registered, and we'll go Tuesday to Tuesday and then give it away on Wednesday during Valentine's Day. Really excited about that one, so you're not going to want to miss it. Bottom of the hour news. When we come back, we'll shift gears a little bit from the guns to your taxes and to hypocritical spending from the government. I know it's a crazy shocker, but yet it still kind of happens on occasion. This is your show. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Talk trendy.
Oh my God, yes, more.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Oh, man, we're just having way too much fun today. That's what I'm thinking. It's a Monday morning trying to wake you up the proper way, setting the tone for the entire week, because that's just what we do. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, you're more than welcome to do so. Coming up in about a half hour from now, Keith Esau, State Representative, along with candidates for the Secretary of State position in the state of Kansas, going to be joining us. And I love the fact that we can just get legislators on the show when we need to. We talked with, very briefly, Blake Carpenter in the first hour, as he had proposed the bill that we had briefly talked about on the requirements for the running for governor. And now on the phone with us, State Representative John Whitmer is with us as well. John, how are you, my friend?
Well, what do you mean get on the phone? You paid me to be. You begged
that is true.
me. You called up. That's right. Yeah, okay.
That's it. Yeah, I begged. I needed that, Phil. I needed that right there. Oh, what do we do? I don't know what I'm doing. I need some help right now. Please assist me with this.
Yeah,
right.
I think you're doing just fine. You're the only conservative radio show that can get metal tickets given away. Come on.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, come on. Now, I may not have the largest audience, but I have the most unique, awesome audience, because the fact that as conservatives, we can give away tickets to a metal metal concert. I am very proud of that fact. So what can I say there?
We're Big Tent, man. We are Big Tent.
That's what we do. We are broadening the Republican umbrella right here, right now. That's us. I love it. Yes, last week we briefly talked. We were trying to get some info on a couple different gun bills that were being proposed in the House, and one of them being voted on Saturday. We read the 17 names of the Republicans that voted for this bill to repeal campus carry. But talk to us, give us some details. Were there two different bills? Did they end up becoming one? What are the details of the bills? And it sounds like that both of them were not the most pro Second Amendment.
Well, there were two bills. They were voted on Friday. The guy, whoever it was, tweeted Saturday, but the bills were voted Friday.
Okay, it was on Friday. All right.
Debate was on Thursday, and I actually had the honor of carrying the reciprocity bill. So I got to spend 3.5 hours on Thursday defending Second Amendment rights, which was this first time I've had, and we consider that a pretty heavy lift, to stand there for 3.5 hours and debate the left as they try and take away our gun rights. So, I stood there and they fought off about a half a dozen different amendments. Sadly, the one bad amendment that landed on the bill came from Clay Orland, a Republican from the right. So, but no, yeah, they did. They tried to repeal campus carry. That was Barbara Ballard's amendment, and I made some of the same points that you made this morning. I asked her pointedly, I said, well, Representative, can you point to one instance in the last 8 months that the current law has been in effect where we've had any gun-related crime or gun-related violence on a Regents campus? And she said no. But if I had, boy, I would point it out today.
But that defeats the entire purpose. Have you seen any in order to actually create the issue that you're saying needs to be addressed right now? Because the issue should only be addressed if there's actually something bad happening, and they haven't seen anything bad happen. But if it would have, then that would have been prime example on why we need to repeal this. So, but they still hyped it up. Now, from my understanding, so this was the debate on what amendments to put into this legislation.
Correct.
Because it's the idea itself of state reciprocity is a good idea, but if they tag a whole bunch of junk onto it, then it's almost not worth it.
Correct. The reciprocity bill is actually good because it helps protect Kansans who want to travel across state lines.
Sure.
It protects us and it protects those who carry so that there's no confusion, and other states will now respect our concealed carry laws and vice versa. But they thought, and it was germane to most everything. So we saw an opportunity to, for them to try and run amendments. I mean, they tried bump stocks. I was able to get that one thrown out. We had to defeat this one. We had to defeat campus carry. Another case that they made on the campus carry argument was the standard fear argument. And the point that I made to Representative Ballard on that one was, does your amendment prevent a criminal from carrying a weapon onto a college campus? And she had to publicly admit, no, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, that right there, it's so easy to poke holes in their argument because their argument is all based on fear.
Sure.
It's, we're afraid something might happen, so you have to stop this because it's fear. There's no reason behind their argument. It's all fear-based, but fear sells. And so you have to try and make them admit that there's no reason behind their argument. It's strictly a fear-based argument.
So give us some clarity on this. With the two different bills, or is there maybe only one bill now on guns, one of them being the reciprocity? Was the repeal of carry campus in the reciprocity bill, or was that the separate bill?
Yes. No, it was an amendment that was attempted on the campus, on the reciprocity bill. It did fail.
Okay.
Close, relatively close, closer than it should have been. The other bill was really just a technical fix. I mean, it was gun related, but it was unimportant.
It wasn't a big thing then.
No, it wasn't a big deal at all.
Okay.
And I think, we've got. I'm running a gun safety in training in schools bill that we'll have a hearing on. I think it's tomorrow in Fed and State, basically to roll out the Eddie Eagle program. Other than that, I don't know if we'll have much more in the way of gun legislation this session because, especially now that the
do you think they'll try and bring this back up again? I mean, as you mentioned, the moderates may try and do something, but we do have a midterm election. They're not going to want to come on record numerous times this session wanting to repeal the Second Amendment. So the 17 Republicans have voted for this one. It's not going to look lightly on theirs, the fact that they're trying to repeal carry on campus. Although, from what I had heard, and this may not have made it to the final bill or not, but the idea of lowering the age down to 18 and having some kind of background check and permit for the 18 to 21-year-olds, and then the 21-year-olds on, then you can be fined. But, was that in the final bill as well?
That did get on the final bill, and that was, we had two versions of it. The first one lowered concealed carry permitting from its current to 18. So if you're 18 to 20, you'll have to have a permit and training on college campuses. That passed. Then that's when Clay Orange brought his amendment, and that changed it from the cap at 20 to all ages. And that was really the bone of contention for a lot of us, which now says that to carry a concealed carry permit or concealed carry a handgun on a college campus, everyone has to have a permit. And that was kind of a sticking point for some of us because that rolled back current law and that rolled back current rights.
Sure.
So, someone who was a vet who honorably served his country, now he's back and he's on the GI Bill. All of a sudden now he has to get a permit. He has to go have training. A service member who served in Iraq and Afghanistan can't defend herself without going to a permit. It didn't make a whole lot of sense, and you're rolling back. That's the vote that's really going to hurt those folks who, in the Republican side of the aisle, because they just voted to roll back constitutional rights.
Sure. Is there an opportunity, last question before we let you go here, another opportunity maybe sometime this session to reintroduce state reciprocity but not have anything attached to it to be able to have any type of shenanigans or red tape?
Well, it's going to go, the bill will now go over to the Senate. I think we assume that they will strip out that last bit, the one that Clay Orange ran. I'm assuming they'll strip that out, then it'll come back to the House. Who knows what could happen? There's always, it's the legislature, man. They can do it.
They can do whatever they want to.
Right. They can pull bills above the line. Who knows what? Goodness, there's all kinds of stuff that can happen. We'll see. We're doing our best. Like I said, I was standing there for 4 hours defending your rights. It's hard enough to keep track of some of the shenanigans, but we're trying.
Well,
we're tilting the windmills sometimes, but we're trying.
That's really good to hear. Also, before we let you go, I have heard, and I think that we're gaining more support on this, which is why, luckily, this was able to be shot down. But the fact that the Freedom Caucus has expanded its numbers quite drastically. You guys are doing pretty good with the Freedom Caucus.
Oh, you mean our Truth Caucus?
Or the Truth Caucus. I guess Freedom Caucus, federal level, Truth Caucus here. Yeah, the Truth Caucus is doing very well at the state level now.
Yes, as a matter of fact, our numbers are considerably higher. I think we have over 30 members in the House and almost a third of the chamber in the Senate.
Very good.
So it's solid, and that's a solid group of conservatives. And if anybody is interested, they can Kansas Truth Caucus on Facebook and Twitter and the website and follow us. And, they're very active. I know that we've got staff that keep the social media going. So trust me, we're active. We just need to win a few seats in the fall elections, and we'll be more active.
Absolutely. To keep it on. State Representative John Whitmer, appreciate the details on that. It's fascinating. Again, I didn't think they were going to bring up guns this session because they try and lay low for the midterm elections. A little shocking that they did bring it up and try to include all the junk onto a reciprocity bill that they could, just to see if they could ram it through.
Yeah, we were a little surprised. It came up last minute, and I had to prepare to carry it with less than a day's notice, but we did okay, and hopefully the Senate can kind of clean it up. I hate having to rely on the Senate, but hopefully they'll clean it up a little bit and then send it back to us so we can get it to the new governor for a signature. So.
Very good. John, keep up the good work, my friend. There's a lot going to be happening soon. I feel that the lid is going to blow off of the legislature soon, and you guys are going to be keeping the fight, although it's going to be very tough. So keep it up, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Likewise.
Always a pleasure there, State Representative John Whitmer. Appreciate him giving us an update from Topeka as they head up for their Monday morning kickoff of this week's session. Let's go back to the phones here, shall we? Good morning, Richard. Oh, I guess we lost him. That's all right. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Let's go ahead and take a break. We'll wrap up hour number 2, and then hour number 3, we'll have another State Representative, Keith Esau, joining us to talk about the session along with his campaign for the Secretary of State position. This is the Voice of Reason.
the voice of reason with Andy Hoosier. It's time for Reason.
That's the priorities our government has set. We just talked about the state budget and where the money's going and how much taxes they want to increase on us. Now we're looking at the federal level and looking at a federal budget reform on what we can do to get our budget under control. And instead of worrying about where the money's going and what our tax rate's going to look like and what our spending's going to look like, we're too concerned with giving amnesty to illegal aliens. Notice the priority of the progressives.
This is the voice of reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Yeah, welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 3. The Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Along with KGPT TV, channel 2610. Whether you're watching, listening, traveling, no matter what you may be doing, happy Monday. Welcome aboard. Clearing the clutter of politics on a daily basis on a Monday morning. Trying to get you set up, setting the tone, getting you excited for the day and for the entire week, because this is how we do it. This is when we get excited. It's a Monday on the Voice of Reason right here.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
Oh, yeah. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, shoot me a message all over social media. The Voice of Reason page, KQAM page on Facebook, the Facebook Live feed that's rolling right now as well, the Twitter at Hoosier Reason. Or, of course, you can always email me, Andy at KQAMradio.com. No matter how you want to do so, you're always welcome to reach out and talk. I love hearing from you. We have, let's see here. Oh, we had another listener Scott on email. Did not watch the Super Bowl. Don't care about the NFL at all anymore. I threw away all of my NFL merchandise. There's no turning back for me. I am all done. Seems to be the motive. Seems to be the message that many of us have had, and the idea and the feelings that many of us have had about the NFL. Did not watch the Super Bowl, and we've had a feeling like that all across our listenership. 316-721. By the way, I did post the picture of the vote on the Second Amendment bill that happened on Friday. That was to try and start doing more background checks and permits for your constitutional carry and try to ban the carry on campus. That vote falling 69-53 in the House on Friday, which is a good thing. I did post the picture of the vote along with the names of the 17 Republicans that did support the bill. So that way you're aware come the midterms. If you're okay with it, then that's cool. But now you know if that's kind of important to you, which Republicans actually supported that. I am excited. Let's get to our next guest here. One individual that did not vote for that bill, which I do have to thank him for that and more. He is Republican House Representative. He's also candidate for the Secretary of State position in the state of Kansas. Mr. Keith Esau is on the line with us. Keith, good morning, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me on.
I appreciate you coming on here. And first off, thank you for the vote against that gun bill on Friday. It sounds nice when they talk about state reciprocity, which I am in big support of, but at the same time, when you begin to clutter up a lot of shenanigans within the bill, then it's kind of not even worth having reciprocity at that point, right?
That's right. We want to make sure that people can carry correctly on campuses and use their constitutional right to carry. We don't need to screw it up with our laws.
Well, and they like to try and clutter that up just a little bit. So thank you for that vote. That was extremely important and good to know that as of right now, we still have our constitutional carry and our carry on campuses. First up, before we get into anything else, talk about yourself. Talk about your background a little bit. I know that you've been in the state and the state house for a bit and now looking to run for Secretary of State. What's led you to that point to say, you know what, maybe I could do to have better services and offer better services from the Secretary of State position as opposed to in the House of Representatives?
Well, I've always been interested in maps and elections. I actually looked at running for Secretary of State before I knew what I was doing back in 2006. But I've worked for a long time. I worked within the party to recruit people, always interested in where the map lines were and why the map lines were drawn certain ways, make sure that the process is fair and that everybody has the ability to get out and vote. And I just, I'm a chair of the elections committee now in the House.
Sure.
And I'm glad I've learned a lot of the process by working in the House, and I think it's time to move up. And I'm also a computer IT professional, so I think with all the attacks that are coming on voter databases and other things, we need to make sure that we have an IT professional at the top of the ticket there to keep our voter data safe.
Absolutely. That's a huge aspect to it. I know that's been in the news as of lately with the different ways to either do registration when it comes to our voter registration and trying to keep that safe when it comes to the databases. Talk about the role itself of the Secretary of State position, because it's gotten a lot of news. Normally, a lot of people don't really follow the Secretary of State's position. They don't really care. They go to the website sometimes just to get their letter of good standing if they open up a business or if they're concerned about how to get registered or if they want to run for office themselves. But other than that, it's not a position that most people really look at as a mainstream type of position. And if they're not familiar, talk about the duties of the Secretary of State.
Well, you're right. The Secretary of State is basically a records-keeping office. They keep track of all the business filings, the annual reports from businesses, the lien holdings, which is a vital area that we need to protect as well. We don't want anybody changing who holds a lien on a property. They do cemetery audits, which is one of those obscure things. They validate all or register all the notaries who witness every kind of document that you're signing. So there's a lot of little things that the Secretary of State's office does, but they're all vital things to the way our state works and the economy in our state, and we want to make sure that everything is done efficiently and improve the way that we can assist businesses in getting their reports done and finding all the certain forms that they need to file.
Sure, absolutely. Kind of the behind-the-scenes work that no one really pays attention to, but yet keeps us rolling the way that we actually need to be done. Have you seen, by your tracking of this, I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, you've been interested in this area for a while. Have you seen, and even from the legislative standpoint, an increase or a decrease, or where are we at looking with the number of filings for small businesses in the state of Kansas? Are we seeing that kind of stagnate? Are we seeing an uptick or a downtick? Where are we at when it comes to that office and seeing small businesses want to try and file to become a small business in the state?
Well, we've seen an increase. The LLC break that we had was the only break that we really gave to small businesses. We give lots of breaks to big businesses in terms of TIFs and certain bonds and things in the communities, but we don't ever give those breaks to small businesses. Well, the LLC tax break that we had for a few years was a stimulus that brought in lots of small businesses and got lots of people to think about starting their own small business, because you need that initial break, especially when you're starting a small business, to be able to build up the business.
Sure. No, absolutely. Let's go into the idea, as you mentioned, with the voter registration. I know it's been a huge issue under Secretary of State Chris Kobach, with him trying to put a little more stringent laws in effect for the registration. A lot of people fighting against that. The ACLU's been up in arms about it for quite a bit. From your perspective, if you were in this position, do you think that the voter registration in the state, the voter data, and trying to cross-check and make sure there is no shenanigans, has this entire issue been blown out of proportion? Do you think it's a serious issue? Where should we go from this point on when it comes to this discussion?
Well, what we have in place are what most Kansans think are common sense proposals. You should need to show your ID when you come to vote. You should be a citizen to register to vote. I've gone to lots of small groups, and the only place I've seen people complaining about this is the ACLU and some people in the paper. But everybody I meet with in the coffee shops across Kansas, they think this is common sense. We protect our right to vote. It's not only a right; it's a responsibility and a duty to vote. And we want people who are involved in the process and we want to keep those protections in place.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's go back to one of the first things you mentioned when it comes to the lines being drawn for different districts. I saw an amendment being proposed, I believe it was from the House, I don't remember if it was the House or Senate right now, about changing the number of legislators in the House and in the Senate to try and make it a little more reflective with a 3-to-1 ratio. I mentioned about a week or so ago, a couple weeks ago, about the idea of potentially adding more legislators to both chambers, because I think that after the growth of the state that we've had really a harder time being able to not only hold elected officials accountable, but having the proper representation based on districts. And if we redraw lines, if we redistrict a little bit, if we try and make it a little more fair, is that an opportunity? Would you support something like adding more elected officials, representatives and senators in order to try and make the districts a little bit smaller for a little bit more representation?
Well, that's an interesting concept. I mean, the two bills that we have right now are to make it so that the Senates have staggered terms, so they would have to elect leadership every 2 years, and we'd always have a Senate election every cycle. One of them also realigns the map so that we have 3 representatives for each senator, and they would be contained exactly within that Senate district, which would make the method of redistricting a little bit easier in that respect. That we'd start with one map and then divide each Senate district into 3. And the other part of that was to limit the number of senators, or increase the number of senators possibly to 41, but decrease the House to 123, which would be, exactly 3 times the number of Senate.
Sure.
We actually have some of the smallest districts in the U.S. in terms of the number of people within the district. Kansas has more elected representatives than any per capita than any other state.
Sure. Well,
most of that is down in the townships, so.
Sure. No, absolutely, and that's good. And I love the more that we can have the smaller districts, in my opinion, the better. So that way we can have that proper representation. So it's interesting to watch, and I love being able to, as you mentioned, it's very fascinating to watch how the lines are drawn when it comes to the districts. And now, how often are we able to redistrict? Is it every 10 years or so?
Well, we do it every 10 years. We could actually do it more often, but we usually are spending a lot of time doing other things and don't want to upset the apple cart in the middle of a cycle. So we will do it every 10 years. The next time is in 2022, and we'll get new maps, and the shifts in Kansas have been interesting too. We'll have a map that will have more than 50% in urban areas next time.
Fantastic. Very good. State Representative Keith Esau, also candidate for the Secretary of State position. We got just a couple minutes left, but talk about, again, your platform. What do you want to see? If you were Secretary of State right now, what would you like to do? And your message to all the listeners and the potential voters right now that are looking to see who's going to be our next Secretary of State.
Well, I would like to make sure that we keep our protections in place. We put in place ways to make it easier for people to help people and assist people in finding the documents they need for registering to vote. I want to be in the office a lot more than some of our previous secretaries of state have been. I've got a perfect attendance record in the House here, and I intend to be in the office more than 75% of the time during. There are times when you have to go out of state to do other things, but I want to make the Secretary of State's office available to the people and make all sorts of filings easier to do. Very good. Keith, how can people get a hold of you? Go to my website, KeithEsau.com. That's KeithEsau.com, and all my information for getting a hold of me is there. I love it. Keith, well, good luck to you, my friend. We want to get you on before the primary happens this fall and to talk a little bit more and remind everybody again, but keep up the good fight in the House right now. I know it's going to be a bloody, very interesting legislative session at the end of it by the time that everything comes to fruition with education and all the other spending that they're looking at doing. So keep up the good fight, my friend, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you, and have a good day.
Hey, appreciate it very much. That's Keith Esau right there, State Representative, also candidate for the Secretary of State here in the state of Kansas. 20 minutes past the hour. We'll take a break. We'll open up lines to you when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker KQAM along with KGPT TV. Happy Monday. Welcome aboard wherever you may be listening. We appreciate it very, very much. Thanks again to State Representative Keith Esau joining the show, talking about the run for the Secretary of State position. Man, it's a good time. Coming up, we're going to wrap up the show, open up lines to you on whatever you want to talk about. We do have a lot to get. As usual, there is a laundry list of events that are happening at the state level that we did not get to today. We'll talk about them tomorrow. It is funny that they are feeling a little more emboldened than I thought they would on certain issues. Now, of course, being a legislative session, they're going to try and promote their agenda, obviously. But a lot of this stuff is kind of interesting that they're bringing up during an election year. One of them repealing the carry on campus, which I do not understand. I didn't think they were going to touch that this year. The other one being that after two massive tax increases at the state level, the Democrats are now proposing a bill in the House to try and lower the, I'm sorry, in the Senate. The Senate's doing this, lower sales tax, which is very fascinating to me. It's good because the groceries are really damn expensive, but at the same time, you just did massive increases at the income level, the state income level. Now we're going to try and decrease the sales tax. You're going to lose out on close to $500 million in revenue if you end up doing this, and we're talking about wanting to spend more money. Remember, if we don't touch tax rates at all, and we don't raise a cent in spending at all at this point right now, we will still be $500 million short come next year for our 2-year budget cycle. We will be short at our state government level $500 million without touching a single thing and letting everything coast this year. We will be short. Then talk about adding education funding additional. Then talk about Medicaid expansion. Then talk about the Supreme Judicial System. Then talk about X, Y, and Z. They're going to raise insane amounts of spending, and then they want to cut the sales rate, the sales tax. I mean, that's cool, but what are you going to do to afford the rest of it? They're going to raise your income tax. And if you remember the ratio right now, 65% of all state revenue comes from sales tax right now. That is the beef of it because of the fact that Governor Brownback was trying to go towards the path to zero with 0% income tax and then being on a fair tax with straight sales tax. That's what we were going towards. And now they're trying to reverse that. Now they're going to start lowering the sales tax and they're going to raise the income tax. When right now the sales tax is the meat and potatoes of the revenue going into the state government. You're going to hurt yourselves. We're going to be in billions of dollars of debt again. They're going to come back and still blame that it was still part of the repercussions and the ripple effect of the Governor Brownback failed Kansas policies, and then they're going to want to raise your income tax again. It's a very dangerous, tricky position to be in, isn't it? And now the Democrats are wanting to look at the midterm election, looking to say, hey, let's start lowering your sales tax. We're out looking for you, so we're going to lower your sales tax rates. Okay. I don't know if that's going to work or not. They can try it, but I don't know if it's going to work or not. I'm sure that many of the Democrats will still come back and say, yeah, we're not in a position to do that yet. Let's wait. Although this is a midterm election, and the Democrats will look, they don't care what's going to do to the next year. They're going to look at this election and say, we lowered your taxes, your sales tax rate. We may raise your income tax, but we're going to lower your sales tax so you can afford groceries. So look at us. We reversed the Brownback policy and we lowered your sales tax. Look how great we are. Please reelect us. They're trying to do this as a political play, actually then take care of the actual budget at the state level, which it's going to do more harm than it is good. Right now, as much as I would like to see sales tax go down, they're not doing it for the right reasons. We'll talk about this and more when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
Spreading the love on a daily basis.
And I will always love you.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Don't you feel the love, baby? Don't you feel it? Welcome back into the Voice of Reason right here on the Big Talker KQAM, along with KGPT TV, channel 2610. Welcome aboard. Happy Monday morning. Trying to start your morning the right way, getting you excited, getting you pumped up. That's what we're all about, and I want to hear from you. 316-721-8255. It's open lines to you for the rest of the show on anything you want to talk about. As you know me. I'm an eternal optimist. What you get on this show is my personality the rest of the day, is how I hold myself and contain myself, or lack thereof containing myself, because I'm a really excited kind of guy. This is how I act all day. This is how I act when I go home to my wife and my kid and my family. This is me. You get me every single day. And I'm an eternal optimist. I always see the silver lining. Even if, let's say, there's bad things happening in the family, or there's trouble at work, or there's, stressful times. And don't get me wrong, I get stressed out at times, but I'm a very eternal optimist. I always see the shining light. I always see the good in things, because the glass is always full to some degree. There's always something in there, no matter how bad politics may look, an election may look. The Democrats going to roll over and going to take over the midterm elections this fall at the national level or at the state level. That the Democrats have all the momentum. The Trump Republican era is coming to a demise after the first year, and it's going to be no more. That's all you hear. But the fact is that that's not necessarily the case. There's always a way to defeat them. There's always a way to advance your agenda. There's always a way to chip away at the progressive agenda every single day. There's always a way to do it, no matter what. And now, according to The Hill, the polls are showing that now Republicans are becoming more favorable again going into the midterm election. And why? We called it right here on the show. It was because of the State of the Union address. When the State of the Union happened, the lowest, they were always hyping up the media and the Democrats, that the fact that Donald Trump had the lowest approval rating for any president in the first year of their term. And after that, now he's bumped up close to 10, 12 points. And now the midterm election in the daily poll of would you vote Republican or Democrat shows the majority of people going to Republicans again. Because they start to realize it's clicking on, the light's coming on about what the Republicans are doing, what the troubles are in order for them to finish their agenda, and what we can do to push that barrier a little bit further. Now, I understand that we have, of course, the purists, quote unquote, that say that we either want all of it or we want nothing. In a bill, we want everything we want and no type of shenanigans, no type of compromise in any way, shape, or form, or else we're not going to support it because then it's a tainted bill. And to me, that goes on different variations and different levels. Yes, we're going to need to compromise sometimes. Yes, we're going to need to negotiate sometimes. Yes, we're going to have to try and find a way to get something passed, because if we go to the hardline bill, sometimes it's not going to go through. Doesn't mean I wouldn't like to see the hardline bill get through. Just means realistically that it wouldn't. So what do we do to make that happen? And I would rather take 20% of our agenda and check it off as a to-do list and got done, as opposed to we didn't get anything and we'd rather them get everything they want. Because right now in the political, and I'm not talking about party line here in any way, shape, or form. This is purely philosophical and your ideas, ideologically. Right now, it is either their agenda or ours. And if we're able to get a little bit of ours, that means we gained. If we don't get any of ours, that means they got all of theirs. And right now, with that pendulum swinging back and forth, with us trying to figure out where that pendulum's going to go, is it going to go to the left? Is it going to go to the right? Is it going to swing back to the center? Where's it going to go? We have to get what we can when we can. And that's what we're starting to figure out. And we can get more done when we have more conservatives, when we have more Republicans. The Democrats can get more done when they have more progressives and they have more Democrats. They're able to obstruct President Donald Trump. If we have more Democrats here at the legislative level in the state, they can reverse more of Brownback's policies. They can stop the Truth Caucus. They can try and stop the Republicans. They can try and sway a few more Republicans and get on board with them. They can get momentum. But at the same time, that's an opportunity for us to gain momentum. Republican polling is coming back into the favorable position at the state level and at the federal level. They tried to repeal carry on campus on Friday. It didn't work, even with 17 Republicans in the House supporting it. Now the the Senate's going to try their own same thing. Hopefully they can actually weed out some of the bad things to allow a righteous state supremacy bill or a reciprocity bill. That is good news. Let's try it. Let's do it. We have an opportunity to advance conservative agendas. And right now, I still see, and over the weekend, I've still seen the quote-unquote never Trump conservatives who are so conservative, and Donald Trump's such a liberal and such a crazy left-winger and yada, 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 that they still will not support him. And it's driving me nuts. And after a while, I finally had to clear it off. I unfriended a few people because I couldn't deal with it anymore. I don't mind the difference of opinion, but the never-ending, they sound like the mainstream media. They sound like a CNN to where every little tweet, every little bad mojo, every little whatever, that's all it is. And my Facebook blows up with it, and I had to block it. I just couldn't read it anymore. Because I asked them, one of them actually had the banner on their social media as, I stand with Israel. So I asked them, being a never-Trumper, and I said, wait a second. Trump just said that Jerusalem's going to be the capital of Israel, and that we're going to build our embassy there. Do you support that? Yeah, but he hasn't done it yet. He just announced it. It's going to happen this year. Do you support that? Well, he's a liberal and he says a lot of things, but he never does them. Do you support it? They wouldn't answer the question. And they just rattle on and on and on. And after a while, you just can't deal with it. No, Donald Trump is not the most conservative individual. No, right now, our Republican legislature is not the most conservative, but we advance what we can when we can, and I would rather take 10, 20% of our agenda and chipping away the way that the progressives have done since FDR in the early 1900s. I would rather chip away little by little by little and have a long-term goal than do it all at once right now, and that's it, or else I'm not going to get anything done. And we have to remember that mentality. It's frustrating when the Republicans are so easy to negotiate and just give away our nice bread and butter, our golden goose that we have holding in the back that is our negotiating prop, and they give that away first off the bat because they don't know how to negotiate anymore. That is frustrating. But at the same time, we need to hold fast. And if Donald Trump cannot promote his conservative agenda through a conservative Congress, then that just emboldens us to vote for more conservatives in the midterm to make sure that we can actually get more of the agenda across this year. And by the way, all of this discussion reflects the same exact scenario of what we're dealing with at the state level. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, Andy. It's Ron.
Ron, how are you, my friend?
Well, I'm doing great.
Good.
Andy, you talked about increasing the number of representatives and senators here and redistricting and things like that. Well, there's one little hang-up. It's called Article 2 under legislative. It says the number of representatives and senators shall be regulated by law, but shall not exceed 125 representatives and 40 senators. Okay?
Well, there is an opportunity to change that, though, and that's from actually a bill being presented right now wanting to lower the amount of House members by 2 and raising the Senate by 1 in order to have a perfect 3-to-1 ratio just for the districting purposes. So it is able to be done. It's just a little more difficult to make happen.
Well, what we really need in this state is we need an Article 5, like in the U.S. Constitution, where we, the people, can get together and force them to make changes.
Sure.
With an Article 5.
Well, and you bring up an interesting concept there. Now, the Article 5 convention at the federal level means that the state governments are able to convene in order to pass legislation and amendments to the federal constitution. If we tried something like that here, now, I don't know. I'm assuming that we have the right to do so in the state of Kansas. I don't know because most states do. But aren't we able to, if we get enough petition signatures, to create a referendum legislation bill that the people have created and vote on in the ballot box?
No, we can't do petitions.
We can't do petitions and referendums.
Unless the legislators, we're being held hostage by our Constitution.
Sure.
The state Constitution.
Well, and that would be what we need to change. And that would be the Article 5 that I would support here is, allowing the people to be able to present referendums onto the statewide ballot box by getting an X number of petitions, signatures, and be able to present a referendum. So that way, even if the legislature didn't even create it, we can create it ourselves in order to hold them in check. And absolutely, let's make something like that happen.
Yeah, I like I said, right now we're totally hostage to our Constitution and the legislators.
Well, that is true. I mean, right now, the only bit, which, I mean, we still have good accountability to some degree, which is the election, which is why I propose the idea of, hey, let's, what if we added more legislators? I mean, if they're talking about decreasing 2 in the House and adding 1 in the Senate in order to have a 3-to-1 ratio, what if we add more to that? We downsize the number of people in a district And then we can have even a little bit closer representative mentality, and we can hold them accountable a little bit easier because there's less people that they have to try and play to.
Yeah, like I said, the biggest problem is that we have too many rhinos in this state.
Well, that's true. And some people like the rhinos. Some people don't realize that they are rhinos, and that's our job to say, if you like them, then I guess all the power to you. But here's the ones that are not voting the most conservative as Republicans, and then we can decide what to do with them during the election time.
Well, education is the thing that we need to do, is educate them on political the political activity that's going on up there in Topeka.
Sure. Well, the landscape, that's what it's all about. More important than any time, I think, right now. I think this midterm election is really going to set the tone for next year and for the years coming, even more so than I say the last presidential election in the state. This midterm election is really going to define whether it was a one-time lash out against Brownback or whether we're going to start moving more progressive or we come back to our traditional conservative roots.
Okay, thanks, Andy, for
Ron,
all you do.
I appreciate it, Ron. Always a great call. I appreciate it very much. 316-721-8255. No, you're right. And I am in favor. I would love to see more elected officials. Now, when I mentioned this to Keith Esau at the beginning of the hour, he mentioned that we already have a smaller ratio of constituents per elected official than most other states, and that's true. Why not make it more? I am in favor of government gridlock. I love government gridlock. If there are more people bickering and more people that cannot get in line and actually get things done, that means that they can't pass anything, which means that it falls back on us to make their own decisions. And I'm okay with that, personally. If someone tells us what the tax rate's going to be and they can't bicker about it and they can't raise it and they can't figure out what to do with it, then guess what? It stays low for you and I. That's what I like about it. That's the beauty of the system, is because we get to make that decision when they don't. I do agree, though, that we should try and pass something to allow referendums. Most states do that. I come from a state of Colorado where they can pass, if you get a number of petition signatures, then you can create a referendum to go onto the ballot for the state that the state votes on, created by the people, not created by a legislator. Why not do that here in the state? That'd be a fantastic idea. That way we can hold them in check. And it could be anything from, it's got to be obviously one item per referendum, but whether it's a term limit, whether it's the different number of legislators, whether it's tax rates. Just imagine if we came back and we had a referendum this year and we got enough signatures and we got it onto the ballot for this midterm election and we said that we want to lower and repeal both of these tax increases that we've seen the last 2 years. In July of last year for the retroactiveness and for this year. And we said, you know what? We don't want that anymore. We're going to lower it back down to the original rate. If we did so, just imagine what the legislators would do. That would force them to have to rearrange and reevaluate their budgetary spending problems because we're going to openly, as the people, decide what our tax rate's going to be. Just imagine what their response would be for that. They would not like that in any way, shape, or form. That would force them to have to cut some spending. And then, of course, they're going to try and make it to be as painful as they possibly can and not touch education. But yet, eventually, they would have to start weeding out the largest piece of the pie. And that would really set the tone for what we as the people of Kansas, and I don't like using the term we the people, but if the majority of the people voted for a referendum like that, that would really set the tone on what they would like and not like. Let's go back to the phone, shall we? Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Yeah, hi. This is Richard Tussler. I was just wanting to get a hold and ask somebody. I agree with what you guys are talking about.
Sure.
But on the TV that I'm getting, you're coming in vibrating verbally, and it's horrible to listen to you.
Interesting. Well,
sometimes it's okay, but even the commercials the same way.
Very interesting. Well, I appreciate you letting me know. We will pass that along to the tech side.
Because while I was listening to you on the telephone, it was okay, and then you took me, and I hear the vibrating just a little bit again. So I don't know if it's the speaker, you got it too high, or you're holding it too close. I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely interested because I've been burning the ears up there, and I've noticed that Wichita is going toward the wrong direction of dummies.
Sure, and we need to be able to speak up
and
the best we can.
I'm sure the Muslim nation wants to take over. Are we a state? We're not a sanctuary stupid state, are we?
Technically, we are considered, some consider us at least, on the sanctuary list at the federal level, that the state of Kansas has been recognized as a sanctuary state to some degree, which now locally they claim we're not, but at the federal level, they have claimed that some of the cities in the state, not the entire state itself, but some cities within the state have been categorized as a sanctuary, a few cities. So that is something that we need to address.
Those areas, for what I want to say is, my vote, throw the people in jail. If I was a bank robber and I had somebody driving the car, guess what? The guy that's driving the car is just as guilty as the bank robber. So if they're going to keep protecting these people, sanctuaries, when I grew up, and I'm 69, when I grew up, it was the churches that would help people that were being mugged by criminals and stuff, or from areas that it was only a few at a time, but it was all donation and people helping, and it wasn't no sanctuary stuff. It was life and death.
Sure.
And these refugees, I've already realized for the last 2 years, when Trump got in there going for it, that they can't go ahead and change my job over in for school bus driver. Oh yeah, they can. Hey, they can just go ahead and give a refugee my citizenship and tell me to get lost.
Sure. Richard, I appreciate the call, my friend. I got to take a break here, but you bring up some interesting points. We'll definitely look into the audio on that site. It's good to know, so I appreciate that very much. And it's an interesting conversation. I mean, now, the sanctuary itself, just the idea of sanctuary city is a little more complicated than just saying whether we are or we aren't, and it's a discussion that I've loved to have over the period of time. So we'll have that discussion again based on what law enforcement's allowed to do locally as compared to what ICE needs to do, and just the duties of who's responsible for what. So that is a conversation we will have again at a later time. I do want to give another pair of tickets away as we are running short on time, and I'm really excited about this. Now, this may be a little extreme for some, but I do love it in the fact that this is really the only conservative talk show in the entire country that can give away tickets to something like this. It is Avenged Sevenfold coming to Interest Bank Arena tomorrow night. I'm going to be there because I enjoy my rock and my heavy metal, and this is going to be a heck of a show. Average ticket price for this show is like $80, $90. It's huge. It's a big one for the mainstream rock. If you enjoy it with Avenged Sevenfold and with Breaking Benjamin, and if you want a pair of tickets right now, you're more than welcome to get them. I got a pair for you right here. 721-8255-721-TALK. We'll do caller number two for your tickets to Avenged Sevenfold tomorrow night, Interest Bank Arena. It's going to be a heck of a show. I may jump in the mosh pit just because I'm awesome like that. You don't have to do that because, well, you don't need to. But Avenged Sevenfold coming up. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM. Opening markets on KQAM. Brought to you by Schmidt & Sons of Mount Hope and Winfield.
I love it. This is truly the most unique audience ever for a conservative talk radio. Congratulations to Mike for winning the tickets for the Avenged Sevenfold concert. I got 2 more pair we'll give away tomorrow. Stay tuned in for that. It's going to be a heck of a show. The only conservative talk show that we can give away metal tickets for and have a great time. Let's enjoy it, baby. That's what we're all about. By the way, speaking of giveaways, starting tomorrow as well, at the same time, we will get you registered for the ultimate KQAM Valentine's Day giveaway brought to you by Autotech with the $75 package of the oil change and all the great goodies that goes along with it. So we'll start getting you registered tomorrow, 1 a day for 7 days, Tuesday to next Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Valentine's Day, we'll give you away that package. So that'll be really great. Stay tuned in for that. So lots of giveaways coming up in the next few days because we're just a giving kind of group. It's Christmas all the time for us. Giving away the freebies. We love it. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is the Voice of Reason. Have a great day, everybody.